how much are the notaires fees when you buy in France, and what additional fees do I need to account for if I'm buying a French property?
Well, generally speaking, the properties that you'll see advertised, if they're going through an agent, will include times it's paid by the seller. But when the property is advertised, it is the law that they have to show whether it's the buyer or the seller that's paying the fees. At the end of the day, it's going to cost you the same, because if the seller's paying the fees, then they will add the fees onto the property price. So the fee for the house will remain the same. The notaires fees are based on between sort of 6 and 8% of the value of the property. So you take the agency fees off, unless, of course, the seller's paying them, then it's the total price. But you take the agency fees off, and then you'd be looking at sort of between 6 and 8%, depending on the region. But this will all be made quite clear to you when you sign a compromis de vente, which is like the exchange of contracts. So that will be noted of what the notaires fees is, but you'd be looking at around 6 to 8%. On top of that, there isn't any other outstanding fees that you would have to pay, unless, of course, you were paying separate fees for a surveyor or a solicitor in the UK, for example. But the only other fees you pay in France is the taxe foncière and the taxe habitation. Whoever's in the property on the 1st of January pays the taxe habitation for the whole year. So if you bought the property on the 3rd of January, you don't have to pay any of the taxes, because the person that owned it on the 1st has to pay them for the whole year. But the taxe foncière is pro rata. So say, for example, you bought the property in June or July, you would be responsible to pay for the last few months of that coming year. Sometimes that's done at the notaire. So the notaire will ask you for a cheque or some sort of payment to pay them off, because the buyer the seller would have had to have paid them, and you're basically refunding pro rata. But other than that, there isn't any other charges. So your notaires fees will be clear at the beginning. You'll know exactly what they're going to be, and you'll know what the taxe foncière is and the pro rata rate for that.